Before you come, before you come, read it. Give it to General Mad Dog Mattis and read it before you come. Because you got to learn how white people, you people, destroyed black youth in a chemical experiment from the CIA, this rotten, no good bastard of a government. Now, if I frighten you, don't wet your pants. Hold on to your pants. They need to be frightened, not you. That's why the subject was, have no fear for the future. The future is ours.
Yes, sir, brother.
I'm going to prove that.
Yes, sir, brother.
Now, in this book, he highlights the chemical experiment and points out the CIA and who did it. Now notice this is from the Nation of Islam publishing.
Yes, sir.
It's from the Nation of Islam Research Group.
Yes, sir.
See, what we find the truth of, we're ready to die on it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And if you know the truth and won't tell it, what kind of person are you?
Yes, sir.
I have to tell.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Dear Muslims, I have to tell it from the mountaintop. Do you know why? The Holy Quran says, "Oh, messenger, deliver the message. And if you do it not, you're not my messenger. But if you do it, surely I will protect you from men."
And I will make all of them easier. And Allah said, whoever follows you, I will certainly fill in hell. sale of weapons to Saudi, the United Arab Emirates, billions of dollars for weapons. But if you listen carefully to his speech, he was making toxic the division between Sunni and Shia and aiming those weapons subtly toward Iran and then openly saying to all of those nations, they should reject their brother Iran. At the insistence of Israel, then the war will trigger another kind of war which will bring China, Russia, all of the nations into a war. And it bothers me to say this to you, Mr. President, but the war will end America as you know it. So when these Iranians chant death to America, death to Israel, no chant can bring about your death, but it is your policies that are eroding trust for you in the world, favor for you in the world. And now you're pulling apart, confused. And if you do this, you will bring about, not the Iranian chant, you will bring about the death of the greatest nation that has been on this earth in the last 6,000 years. I am a warner to you. I am a friend to America, not an enemy. But if you do not heed the warning and correct,
من میخوام که از رئیس جمهورمون خواهش بکنم که مراقب باشن، بسیار مراقب باشن، به خاطر اینکه اگر ماشین جنگ کشیده بشه و امریکا با استفاده از متحدین اسرائیل بخوان جنگ ایجاد بکنن و شروع کنن
tells us that there are many questions. So they've asked me to make my answer short. But if you listen to what I've said, I've answered most all your questions already. But you may ask, and I'll do my best to answer those.
خاص هستیم و سوال من از شما این است که ملت اسلام کارکنون چه اقداماتی در حالت مقابله با اقدامات ایران پرستانی امریکا انجام داده و همینطور چه اقداماتی برای جلوگیری از جنگ مثل جنگ یمن.
No, my dear sister, truth is the best weapon against a false seed. You just heard me.
برای با تکامل مصفحه جمع خیلی قریب و مدافع علیه این اقدامات ایزایی هم.
The Quran says, had we wished to take a pastime before ourselves, we would have done it. Nay, we cast truth or falsehood till we knock out its brains. That is my assignment, to speak truth. The smear that's on you is the smear that's on me. So all of us who want change, if we are too cowardly to write the truth, too cowardly to speak the truth, too cowardly to live for the truth, and too cowardly to die for the establishment of the truth, then you're too cowardly to have the smear removed from you.
من باید به شما بگم که ما باید همیشه پیرو حقیقت باشیم و حقیقت رو بگیم. اگر که بترسیم که حقیقت رو بنویسیم و در مورد حقیقت صحبت بکنیم و زندگیمون رو بر اساس حقیقت بیان بکنیم و اینکه اگر بترسیم که به خاطر حقیقت بمیریم پس باید دیگه نباید گره‌ای داشته باشیم.
The tyranny of governments. Speak the truth if you know it. Rise against it if you can. But everybody who loves truth and seeks justice and peace must rise up against the forces of evil, injustice, and falsehood. Nobody outside can do it for you if you are not willing to do it for yourself. Anything that is wrong in government,
are not just about the 1979 Constitution, but it's way back before. If you turn the pages of history back to 1953, and you clearly mentioned it when the United States reinstated monarchy in Iran. So it's clear that the Iranian people have had a very dark memory about what the United States did back then. So death to the United States is not a slogan chanted by the government. So the United States, if it wants to reimpose sanctions, it's reimposing sanctions against the Iranian people.
That's correct.
Government. So the Western media outlets, especially the United States media outlets, are accusing you these days of leading death to the United States. I just read a couple of news items about you and how the Western media is accusing you of chanting the death to the United States. I want to ask you this question. Are you willing to chant the slogan of death to the United States? Because you are a person who is living in the United States, and you are a person who is exposed to some of the policies that are done and conducted against you, carried out against you in the United States. The black community is in the United States is humiliated, and you are a black person, and at the same time you're a Muslim. And as you see, Muslims these days are exposed to some of the wrong policies committed by the United States. So would you chant this slogan?
No, I will not do that. I will not do that. I would ask who sent you to ask that question. I see you seem to be one of those who are paid at Press TV to provoke that. That's not my chant. Listen to me. No, listen to me. You asked me a question. Your question is, I heard you. I heard
heard you, but I also heard something else about you that I don't like. You want me to chant because they lied on me and said I led a chant. I know that chant came from the people of Iran. And this sanction is what's hurting the people of Iran. They have a right to chant it. But I am not a chanter. I am a worker for God. And the truth will undo falsehood, and the righteous will win against the wicked. Not with a chant, but with actual words and deeds. I just don't like your attitude, man. I don't like that. I have to say this. I'm not just listening to your questions. You're showing me your motives. I'm addressing with anger your motive. I know the question. I don't like it. Now, I'll take one or two more questions, but if you have not heard me yet, and I'm wasting my time, in ourselves, because your focus on the West is not hurting the West, but our focus on ourselves and the corruption that's eating away at our faith is what is weakening the Ummah. So I always spoke, wherever I went, that we must look within ourselves. The greatest jihad is not with somebody else. The greatest struggle is against the shaitan of self that turns you away from truth and faith and makes you an instrument of the enemy. Yes, I talk about it everywhere I go, because the greatest enemy that we have is not the enemy outside, it's the enemy within. And that's what the Quran warns us against, the enemy within.
من صحبتی که میخوام با شما بکنم این هستش که باید ما تمرکز بر روی خودمون داشته باشیم، به خاطر اینکه تمرکز بر روی درد باعث تثبیت ایمان ما باید به درون خودمون، ما باید نگاهمون به درون خودمون باشه، نه به جنگ واقعی، جهاد واقعی و جنگ علیه دشمنی هستش که ما به خودمون اتفاق داریم. همونطور که قرآن می‌فرماید که دشمن بزرگ ما پیروز و در درون خودمون هر ما باید با این دشمن بنابراین آخرین سوال آقای
When I first started making music, I just used to send loads of links from SoundCloud to kind of expose it to as many people as possible. In the early days, I was...
It's Sway in the morning, only on Shea
45. 10/15. And 20th anniversary of Million Man March and Day of Atonement.
Disobeyed the direction of the teacher. The next day, the newspapers said, Malcolm rejoices inwards over the assassination of Kennedy. Now, we have many believers in prisons all over America under white Catholic gods. Persecution began because
they loved Kennedy. Malcolm was exposing Kennedy, not telling lies, telling truth. But that violation of the instructions of his teacher caused the teacher to silence him. During that period of silence, I was invited to New York to speak on a particular Sunday as other ministers were coming in. And Malcolm came and met me and took me to his home on 2311 97th Street. And during the dinner, Betty brought the dinner in. Malcolm began to tell me about my teacher's personal life. And after he finished, he said, "Now, brother, I could get these sisters on the telephone and trick them and make them tell you that what I'm telling you is true." I said, "No, brother, you don't have to do that." When he took me back to the airport, he said to me, "Brother, now I don't want you to tell anybody what I've told you." I said, "No, I'm not going to tell anybody but the Honorable Elijah Muhammad." And I saw his shoulder jump. I went back to Boston. I couldn't sleep. Because sometimes when you learn information that you didn't know that has a tendency to shake your faith some, it keeps you up. I could not sleep that night, and 5 o'clock the next morning, if that's our time for prayer, Brother Malcolm called me. He said, "Brother Lewis, I want you to delay the letter that you're going to write to give me a chance to write a letter to explain what I said and why." I said, "Brother, it's going to take me some time to get my head together to write such a letter. So if you can get your letter off in that time, fine. I do not want to be put in between two powerful men." He said, "Well, there's only one powerful man." I said, "I'm aware of that, but I'm also aware that your relationship with me and mine with you and him would be troubled." Malcolm wrote his letter, and mine came after his letter, and he was summoned to Arizona to answer his teacher. Now, that was a very difficult period in the nation's life because most of you have girlfriends, that you don't legitimize them as wives. I'm not talking to you personally, but most men have women on the side, but they don't accept the responsibility of procreation. Elijah Muhammad married these women. They produced for him children. Now, what you don't know, and you're going to have to face it, women are outnumbering men today from 7 to 11 to 1. And women today lose as a commodity because there's more than the demand. The demand is on the man because he's less, she's more in terms of numbers. So women are plagued. But one day, we're going to have to think over what polygamy is. It's not the best solution, but when Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, went to war, many men lost their lives and left their wives and their children sometimes as orphans. So the Quran permitted the Muslim male to have up to 4 wives. Under that circumstance, Elijah Muhammad taught us against fornication and adultery. So naturally, if he is taking wives, all of us that follow him, that had girlfriends before we met him, it might trigger us to go back into fornication and adultery. I defended Elijah Muhammad. I did not defend Malcolm. I was angry with him because Elijah Muhammad took Brother Malcolm from prison. A brilliant man, potentially, but doing criminal things. And when Elijah Muhammad, when he became a follower of Elijah Muhammad and came out of prison, I know the NAACP wouldn't use him, nor would the Urban League, because Malcolm only had an 8th grade education. But after Elijah Muhammad taught him, that man became a giant. So it would seem to me that regardless to what you felt about your teacher, why would you try to destroy a movement that gave you life because your teacher disciplined you? And that's where we fell out.
Yeah. But those actions question his faith, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And naturally, then, when your faith is shaken, you do what you think you should do. But most of the people don't know that Malcolm tried to get back into the nation before he was assassinated. So why would he come back? If your faith was broken, why would you come back? It's because he realized the nation made Malcolm, and Malcolm helped to make the nation. And 1 year, 2 years outside of the nation, he was wandering, not quite sure where he wanted to go. He was a black nationalist, and then he became an Orthodox Muslim. And he fell out. And I can't take that back, because he taught me how to defend my teacher. And I went to him and showed him what I knew and found in the Quran about the domestic life of my teacher. And Malcolm said to me, I already know that, brother. You can't handle that. I'll handle that. Fine. But he mishandled it. And he made the teacher to look bad when he could have defended the teacher just by using the knowledge of the Quran. So, unfortunately, it led to a back and forth. Like a husband and wife break apart, the children are watching a drama. And sometimes the drama gets so tense that one parent will attack another parent to get the children on their side and vice versa. That's the decision that I had to make over a man that inspired my Islamic life and the teacher of my Islamic life. I could not follow Brother Malcolm. I had to follow the teacher who taught us both. Time and circumstances now brought my brother to an assassination. There's a hell of a climate. You can't leave the FBI out of this. You can't leave the U.S. government out of this. They plotted to divide Malcolm from his teacher and create the circumstances that led to his assassination. And in the Freedom of Information Act, you can find all of this that the government was involved in. Malcolm went to Egypt and was poisoned in Egypt. We were not there. When he went to France, and France wouldn't let him in, he took the money of de Gaulle that had de Gaulle's picture on it and threw it on the ground. He knew that de Gaulle did not want him assassinated on French soil. We're not over there. It's bigger than the nation of Islam. We had differences, yes. And some from the nation were charged with killing him and did 26 years to life. They were innocent. The one that was guilty did the time, and then he came out and he named all those who were involved in that action with himself. And these are records that you can get there in the court with Consular and others. Now I want to say this in closing. Betty, of course, and I, we were at odds. But then the FBI came to my door and told me that we're going to announce somebody was trying to assassinate you, Farrakhan. And we're going to make the announcement at 11 o'clock or something. When the announcement came out, they said it was Kabila Shabazz who had paid some little white boy a little bit of money, and he was to assassinate Louis Farrakhan. Now these are things you can get, it's public record. Yeah. I didn't let the FBI put that mess over on me and on us. We had a press conference, and I took the side of Kabila and Betty that they were set up to create a problem between the nationalist community and the Nation of Islam. So Betty and I then stood together, and at the Apollo Theater, we raised money to help Kabila out of that situation, and finally the government dropped the case. And now they're not going to tell you what Farrakhan did to start to bridge that gap. That night at the Apollo Theater, I used the term Brother Malcolm. And Betty said, I hope that you will continue to see him as Brother Malcolm. Something like that. And when you hear me talk, mention his name, I say Brother Malcolm. Time heals wounds. There's some wounds that time won't heal, but I know that time will heal this wound, because now there's Kabila, there's Alyasha, there are the twins. That's a beautiful family. And you think about Malik Shabazz, or Malcolm Shabazz, the only male member that represents Malcolm X, killed in Mexico. The FBI arrested that brother because he was going to Iran to a conference. The government has never stopped trying to harm both the nation and the Shabazz family. So today, I don't say that we're friends, but I do say that we're better than we were 20 years ago. And I want to say to all of you who think that Farrakhan did something to murder Malcolm or was a part of it, don't you know that as much as this enemy hates me, that if they had any evidence that I was a part of a conspiracy to murder Brother Malcolm, I wouldn't be here with this brother now. I'd be in some prison cell, and they wouldn't have to be afraid of the truth coming out of my mouth because they would have silenced me behind prison bars. So, I have nothing to do with that. And I would hope that you would be intelligent enough to know that the enemy is still working. Today, Louis Farrakhan is the voice that Malcolm was. Do you think they don't want me silenced? Well, soon it'll be my turn, because they're trying to find some way to arrest me, or have some silly person think that they should kill me. And that's out there too.
You receive death threats?
Well, if I did, I don't know it. It's saying that the government dropped the case before the Apollo. Yes, they did. That's what made the Apollo so strong. But I mentioned that it was after the Apollo. No, I didn't say that they stopped it after the Apollo. They stopped it, period. That's all. It's a matter of fact. Well, why did the government back out? They thought they had something. Why didn't they continue? See, because we didn't play into the plot. And that's why they lost. So I'm saying this to you, brother. It's a question that I don't mind answering, But no matter what mistake I believe Malcolm made, he died that I might live. Because he made a mistake that I learned from. When I split with Wallace D. Muhammad, you never heard me say one negative word about that man. Because they were the institution. I was just an individual. But Allah has made me an institution now. So, in the end, I'll be the winner. I don't care what the government says. I'm the winner now, and I'll be the winner in the end. And you know what? I call him Brother Malcolm because even though he's dead, he's bringing more people to Islam in death than some of these living ones cannot do. And the thing that has made Malcolm, it's not an accident. Did you ever read the 11 daily newspapers after Brother Malcolm was assassinated?
No, I didn't read them.
Know that every paper in New York rejoiced at the murder of Brother Malcolm? I can look. He tried to make a movie on Brother Malcolm, and members of the Jewish community would not finance it or let it come out. Did you know that Brother Malcolm was by the ADL the #1 anti-Semite when he was killed? Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that.
Did you know that that's what I am now to them? Do they love me?
No, sir.
I'm asking you a question.
No, sir.
Why don't they love me? Because I exposed them.
That's right.
Malcolm exposed them.